Dr. Albert Rizzo and Dr. Andrea McKee, thank you so much for joining me to talk about lung cancer and quantitative imaging, the workshop that's going on today. Let's dig in a bit more about why you're here this weekend and the just quantitative imaging in general. So if you wouldn't mind, what is quantitative imaging? Can you give a little bit of an overview of what that means exactly?
So quantitative imaging is so you can get a lot of information out of a CAT scan. So when it comes to CT lung screening, which is looking to try to find early stage lung cancer in patients who are at high risk for lung cancer, we image the entire thorax or the entire chest. And inside the chest, you have the lungs, but you also have the heart, you have the thyroid, you have bones, you have blood vessels. There's all sorts of anatomic structures in the chest. That's why, we have the chest wall to protect what's going on inside. And we want to try to figure out this, with all that information that you can quantify findings, pathologic and normal findings in the chest. We want to figure out ways to use that information to optimize health.
And the important part about the quantitation is to make sure that everybody's using the same type of metrics. The measurements can be changed from one machine to the other. One radiologist can interpret it the same way as another. And as the technology has gotten more and more sophisticated, we have to make sure that the machines are keeping up with what is available out there in order to use that image in an artificial intelligence, deep learning type of manner, which can really bring forward a lot of things that we didn't know about what was going on in the chest prior to this.
Absolutely. What are some of the kind of biggest challenges you face with thoracic imaging? Is it more about getting people to actually go and get screened, or is it more from a technical standpoint or other factors?
The technology has been available for decades. We've been doing CT scans for a long time. It's the application of the technology. And we also, of course, as with any technology, continue to improve upon it in an iterative fashion. Right now, for lung screening, the issue is making sure that people understand just how powerful lung screening is and trying to reach the 15 million people in the United States who are eligible for screening, where their lives can literally be saved. So these are individuals between the age of 50 and 80 who have a history of having smoked cigarettes at one time in their life. And so those people really need to talk to their doctors about getting screened. And so, we want to get the message out to anyone. Like if you know somebody who has smoked in their life, have them advocate for themselves and talk to their doctors, because this is a life-saving test that we need people to access.
And there's no question that the fact that it saves lives is real. The big hurdles that we've had focus around awareness on the part of the patients or those who might be eligible, the part of the physicians who need to refer them, and also the community of physicians that have maybe had some question about, are we overdiagnosing it? Are there too many tests coming up with false positives and people are being exposed to radiation and procedures that maybe aren't needed? Andrea and her team have gone a long way in trying to dispel some of those false positive claims. And I think right now we have, as Andrea said, with the new criteria, 15 million people now are eligible. And the last time I checked, the numbers of people who've gotten it done are in the 5 to 7% range. So the longer we wait to get those people screened, the more people are going from early stages to later stages. And we know survival is much less in those later stages when it's found.
So how much of this is due to awareness factors or ease of access? Do we have ideas on kind of what are the big blockers are for so many people?
I think for the bulk of the people who are at high risk, it's an awareness issue. There's also a stigma associated with lung cancer because in order to be eligible, it means that you've had a history of smoking tobacco, and there is unfortunately prejudice against that patient population, even amongst patients themselves. The feeling of, well, I did this to myself, so I somehow deserve to have late-stage lung cancer. And we want to dispel that myth because nobody deserves to have late-stage lung cancer. It's a horrible disease. And people don't realize that if we find early-stage lung cancer, we cure it. And that's a message that they need to know, because if you're just going to find my lung cancer, I'm going to die anyway. Why do I want to get screened? So those are the messages that we need to get out there. So awareness is a big part. And then there are some people who aren't really close to a CT scanner. And so access is the other piece. Not all centers have a screening program because you have to have a certain amount of infrastructure to do it. So there's both of those issues that we're tackling right now.
Yeah, I think the big things are awareness and access. Coverage has gotten a lot better, and the awareness among physicians hopefully is improving, and the lack of worrying about false positives is going farther away. But I think it's awareness and access.
So how does something like the quantitative imaging workshop that's going on this weekend help the cause of trying to detect lung cancer early? What are the main goals from the workshop?
Two main goals boil down to a technical component and a clinical component. The technical component is looking at the actual imaging acquisition, making sure that the metrics and the processing of the data is standard across the board and giving the information we need to then act upon. The clinical part is then getting that report from the CAT scan and from the radiologist and using that information to impact the patient's health. Intervene early if it's lung cancer, intervene early if we find something unrelated to lung cancer. The CT scan of the chest gives us a lot of information about the heart, about the lungs, the muscles in the chest, the bones in the chest, things such as osteoporosis, where the bones are getting weaker, coronary calcification in the heart. All those are things that we might be able to impact the course of events early if the patient has the screening done and the physician finds out about it. These patients are already at risk for some of these diseases because of the tobacco history. And tobacco is the most preventable cause of death and mortality in the world. And if we can find these things earlier, we can have an impact.
So how does Prevent Cancer Foundation assist you in the work that you do in trying to spread awareness and help people? Obviously, prevent cancer is in the name. It's very, very directly tied. But what has PCF been able to help you accomplish, help you do?
This workshop is a perfect example, and what workshops like this do is bring experts in multiple different aspects of the field who are all pretty passionate about early detection. And it's kind of like a think tank, when we all get together, not even just at the meetings or the breakout sessions, but dinner and over the coffee station, wherever it might be, we share ideas about what we're each individually doing, and that just creates this effect where we're building upon each other and able to inspire one another towards this greater good of finding early stage lung cancer.
I think everybody who's passionate about a thing has had that experience, right? You get your work done in your day-to-day, but sometimes it's that 5 minutes of just talking with somebody else who's also passionate about it where the ideas start flowing. Yeah, Doctor, is there anything to add?
No, I think the key things is raising awareness and convening experts. I think that's the main thing that an advocacy group such as Prevent Cancer Foundation can do. And changing practice is a slow process, but it takes experts coming together, writing white papers, putting out literature, showing that these things work, and trying to get the physicians in the community to act upon them is really what we ultimately want to do because we want to save lives. We can't do that if people aren't being sent for their appropriate screening.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Last question, just on that kind of same thought of generating ideas and the think tank, as it were. Where do you see the emerging ideas and emerging technologies right now around thoracic imaging and just lung cancer prevention in particular? Where is that going at the moment? Are there any kind of more exciting developments emerging in that field right now?
Well, I mean, it is, to me, the most exciting aspect of radiology right now. And I'm a radiation oncologist, not a radiologist, but the amount of information and the ability to impact so many different health aspects through the information that we get on a CT scan is really overwhelming. And so that's another reason honestly, for these individuals to present to screening is to help us advance the field forward on behalf of everyone. Because what we learn in this patient population will start to translate over into other areas as well. A rising tide lifts all boats.
And the other area we're hoping to improve upon is just recently the eligibility was expanded to slightly younger people and slightly less intense smokers. But the hope is we know there are other people out there at risk for lung cancer. We also know that people who stopped smoking more than 15 years ago still are at risk but aren't in that group. So we're hoping to change the eligibility so that we can open the gates even further. At the same time as we get more people eligible, we have to move the needle on getting them into screening. So it is a combination of doing two things, improving the amount of people we're going to be eligible, but then getting it done as well.
real quick, either of you play any games either currently or in a past life or anything like that?
Is Pong too far back?
No, listen, we love the retro games, so.
Other than growing up with my children with Nintendo, that was the last time I did it. My older son still games very regularly with people who we invited to his wedding. He had never met them before in person, but they came to the wedding. So him and his wife.
Excellent, excellent. Since our whole thing is all about speed running video games, in just a few words, what do you think speedrunning is, or if you are familiar, describe speedrunning in just like 3 or 4 words. Let's start with you, Dr. McKee.
I think speedrunning might be just like playing continuously, kind of like a marathon, where you go to fundraise and people stay up all night or walk around a track and keep handing it off to other people. So I guess maybe just continuous gaming.
And Dr. Rizzo.
That would have been about the best guess I could have, because I had not heard about it before either. So
it's all about playing games as fast as possible. So we find it's a big collaborative effort. People come up with strategies and spend honestly way too many hours playing the same video game over and over to try to find new ways to beat it as fast as possible. But that's kind of what we do.
Yeah, that's like what my son does.
Pretty much.
Trying to get a nuke. That's the whole thing, is getting a nuke.
Well, thank you both so much, Dr. Rizzo, Dr. McKee, for joining us today to talk a little bit about your work. Is there any other message you'd like to send out to the people who may be tuning into this? A lot of Games Done Quick fans, but also just anybody else who might have come across this interview.
I mean, I think I want to say thank you to Games Done Quick for all the support that they have lent to the Prevent Cancer Foundation. It is making a difference, and we all just have to work together and continue on this cause.
the more media opportunities we have to get this message out, the better. And we want to thank you for your time, and I think you asked all the appropriate questions.
Well, thank you very much.